Hello everyone. Today we will see Module 4 Input Modeling Introduction. An important step in the design of a stochastic simulation is to represent the random inputs of the system being studied. So examples of the random inputs may be time to failure for a machine process or the times between arrivals of calls to a call center, etc. Input modeling is a practice of selecting probability distributions to represent such random input process. It is important for the simulation analyst to recognize that there is no true input model for any stochastic input. The goal is to obtain an approximation that captures the key characteristics of the underlying input process. Input modeling problems can be categorized into two broad classes depending on the presence or absence of data. So when the data are available, we fit a probability distribution to the data. Otherwise, all information available is to be used for constructing an input model. This is very important. The steps involved in development of a useful model of input data. So we have four steps. We will see each one in detail. So the first, we will see what are the different four steps. So the first step is collect data from the real system of interest. Second step is identify a probability distribution to represent the input process. Third one is choose parameters for the distribution. And the fourth one, evaluate the chosen distribution and the associated parameters for goodness of fit. So let us see the first one, collect data from the real system of interest. This requires time and resource. Let us say an example of the real system of interest is a banking system or a call center or whatever it is. So the first we have to collect the data from let's say a banking system, and if the data is not available, expert opinion and knowledge of the process may be used. Sometimes if at all the data is not there, then we can obtain the opinion from the experts for the process, how it is to be conducted. The second one, identify a probability distribution to represent the input process. So we need to develop a frequency distribution or histogram of the data. So choose the family of distributions using the frequency distribution or the histogram and the structural knowledge of the process. So let us see what is this histogram a little later. The third one is choose parameters for the distribution. So this can be estimated from the data. Parameters we can choose according to the type of real world example. Then the fourth one is evaluate the chosen distribution and the associated parameters for goodness of fit. So let's say what is this goodness of fit? The goodness of fit test is a statistical hypothesis test. It's not a real one, it's a hypothesis test to see how well sample data fit a distribution from a population with a normal distribution. Goodness of fit establishes the difference between the observed values and those that would be expected of the model in a normal distribution case. So let's say it is just the difference between the expected values and the observed values. Rather, I can say the difference between the observed value and the expected value. So O minus E kind. Goodness of fit may be evaluated via informal graphical methods or formal statistical tests. And we will be learning about the formal statistical test. And the two tests we are going to use are, one is chi-square and the other one is Kolmogorov-Smirnov test. So the methods of data collection. One of the biggest tasks in solving a real problem is garbage in, garbage out. So the suggestions that may enhance and facilitate data collection are, one is plan ahead. Begin by a practice or pre-observing session. Watch for unusual circumstances. Second one is analyze the data as it is being collected and check the adequacy. Then combine homogeneous data sets, example, successive time periods or during the same time period on successive days. Be aware of data censoring. The quantity is not observed in its entirety, danger of leaving out long process times. And check for relationship between the variables. Example, build scatter diagram. So what is a scatter diagram? It is a graph in which the values of two variables are plotted along two axes. The pattern of the resulting points revealing any correlation present. And check for autocorrelation. Then collect input data, not performance data. So these are all the methods of collecting the data. Then we have few more things here. Consider the possibility that the sequence of observations which appear to be independent may possess autocorrelation. So autocorrelation may exist in successive time periods or for successive customers also. And keep in mind the difference between input data and output of performance data. And be sure to collect input data. Input data typically represent the uncertain quantities that are largely beyond the control of system and will not be altered by changes made to improve the system. And let us see, so we have collected the data, then how do we identify the distribution of the data? So we have a method known as histogram here. So a histogram is used to summarize discrete or continuous data. You know that we have two types of data and we have already seen that, discrete and continuous. And it provides a visual interpretation of numerical data by showing the number of data points that fall within a specified range of values. And histogram is similar to a bar graph, let's say a vertical bar graph. But the difference between histogram and vertical bar graph is that histogram shows no gaps between the bars. And frequency distribution or histogram, it is useful in identifying the shape of the distribution. So how a histogram can be constructed is, first one, divide the range of the data into intervals. Usually the intervals will be of equal length. And label the horizontal axis to conform to the intervals selected. And the third step is determine the frequency of occurrences within each interval. Then fourth one, label the vertical axis so that the total occurrences can be plotted for each interval. Then plot the frequencies on the vertical axis. And let us see one example. So we have an example, we have a chart, we have a table having age and frequency. So for this, the histogram looks like this. So we have age on the x-axis and frequency on the y-axis. So there is, it looks almost like a bar graph, vertical bar graph. Only thing is we will not have any difference between each of the vertical range of values here. So this is one example of a histogram. Now the next topic is selecting the family of distributions. So what kind of distribution we are going to select for a particular real-time example? Let's say we have seen different types of discrete and continuous distributions. So let us see all these things. So we can go for any of these types of distributions. So the first one is binomial. I'm just giving you only the examples here. The definitions you have already seen in module 2. So binomial is the first one, the number of defective computer chips found in a lot of n chips. So this is one example I'm giving for binomial distribution. And we have negative binomial, which includes even a geometric distribution. Again, this is one example, the number of computer chips that we must inspect to find 4 defective chips. And we have seen what is PDF, what is how to find the PDF value, expected value, and the variance of each of these things. And we know that we have formula for all those things. And the third one is Poisson distribution. Again, this is the example, the number of customers that arrive to a store during 1 hour, or the number of defects found in 30 square meter of a sheet metal. So these are all some of the examples I'm giving. Then it can be normal distribution, that is time to assemble a product, that is the sum of times required for each assembly operation. Then we have log normal distribution, the rate of return on an investment when interest is compounded is a product of the returns for a number of periods. Then exponential distribution, the times between arrivals from a large population of potential customers who act independently of one another. I'm just giving an example. I'm not explaining each one in detail because we have already completed this topic. Gamma, an extremely flexible distribution used to model non-negative random variables, and the gamma can be shifted away from zero by adding a constant. Beta, it is an extremely flexible distribution used to model bounded random variables. So the beta can be shifted away from zero by adding a constant and can be given a range larger than 0, 1 by multiplying by a constant. We have next one, Erlang distribution. A computer network fails when the computer and two backup computers fail, and each has a time to failure that is exponentially distributed. And the Erlang is a special case of gamma distribution. Then Weibull, it is the time to failure for a disk drive. The exponential is a special case of Weibull. Then discrete or continuous uniform distribution models complete uncertainty. All outcomes are equally likely, and this distribution often is used inappropriately when there is no data. So the last two types of distributions we have: triangular models a process for which only the minimum and maximum values of the distributions are known. This model is often a marked improvement over the uniform distribution. And empirical, it resamples from the actual data collected. It is often used when no theoretical distributions seem appropriate.